Yeah, well, it's just gone 11:38, and hi there. Time to show up. I'm showing up. I'm glad you showed up. I appreciate every single one of you. So do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit, and let's shit in the box. The skeleton is here. The skeleton is here, which means I can start work on the écorché. I can start putting all the bits and pieces on here. And something that will be useful in all of this is my youngest son got me this this body deck, which has like it has all of the little slivers and shivers of the human body pictured within it, and I can use that for reference. That'll be useful. It'll be very, very useful to go through and just kind of use as easily available reference for this process. You really couldn't use these to actually play cards because you could see what's... I mean, you have a pretty good idea what it is. I guess you could use them to play solitaire. And I guess, well, I guess if you have one of these, the only card you're playing is solitaire. nobody's playing poker with you. You're not in a bridge club. But, yeah. So I could start work on the écorché. That is the next major thing that I want to put time toward. And I know I don't really need to do this, but I want to do all the like internal organs and whatnot, and I'll probably do that on a video. I'll probably pull out the clay and like model all of the individual things and go from the esophagus down through the heart, the lungs, small and large intestines, your stomach, your pancreas, your screen, your gallbladder, spleen, your gallbladder, the bladder itself, the kidneys. And while this is a male skeleton, you can tell from the formation of the pelvis, the way the pelvic bones are put together, and also from the strong masculine jaw and the mandibular angle here. Definitely a male skeleton, but I will mention at the very least when I go in and do this that I will mention where the uterus and everything would go. And how that fits in there, and how that alters the way that the skeleton works. Another way you can tell that this is a male skeleton is because it's not leaning back far enough. There's a different curvature to the spine in women because of the way that things are shaped, the way that things are weighted, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about there. And I talk about that sort of thing fairly frequently because nobody ever talks about it. Nobody talks about the mechanics of the breast. They talk about what it looks like. They talk about, like how it behaves. Nobody really talks about what it means to the rest of the body. Nobody talks about how the breasts sitting on the front of the chest, they're fucking heavy. And the inside of your chest, here inside your ribcage, that's lungs. Lungs are like balloons. They're full of air. They don't weigh much of anything. The thing that has weight on the upper body is just the muscles of the chest and upper back. That's what has weight up there. So a guy's fairly well balanced. He's got muscle in the chest. He's got muscle in the upper back. But a woman, you have these additional weights sitting in front of that, and the way that they're sitting, the leverage is all fucked up. She's got to lean back. If she doesn't lean back, she'll fall over. You can't stand properly like that. So we'll talk about that in more detail when I get around to that. Probably Wednesday or Friday. It depends on whether there's anything else I want to go into. But today, kind of the thing that's been occupying my attention is the concept of identification for the internet. A lot of people are very upset about this. They're very concerned about this. And I mean, I've been on the internet a long time. I've been on the internet since the days when the only way you got on the internet was to be employed by the United States government or a United States government contractor, or you had an account through a local university. And I was too young to be a student at a university, but I did through a nifty little plan through my school. I did get to take some university classes when I was fairly young. You could probably guess what university that was through. It was an English composition class. I didn't get to like go and do physics or chemistry or anything cool in university. I did later get to do an astronomy class, but that's not really all that cool either. And that was just to fill up a science elective. But yeah, I was doing English composition because apparently everybody's very impressed that you can read at a university level. And then you go to university and everybody reads at university level, which kind of surprising. I mean, it shouldn't be, but it is for some reason. Regardless, because of that, I was on the internet 45 years ago. And back then, between your email address ending in the institution that gave it to you and beginning with the account name at that institution, your email address mapped directly to a real human being that could be looked up in the directory for that institution. If you looked at the Ohio State University directory for 1980, you would find me in there. Well, you wouldn't find me. You'd find my old name, which I don't really keep secret, but I don't really publicize either. I mean, I'm not trying to hide it, but people get weird. And the more time I spend on the internet, the more I go, let's not give people extra opportunity to be weird. So no, you're not finding Caliban Darklock in that directory. You're finding who Caliban Darklock used to be in that directory, but not Caliban Darklock. That was a name change I went through when I was 33, so that would have been, God, 23 years ago. It would have been like 2003. It was just before my first son was born in 2004. So anyway, at the time, not only could your email address be mapped directly back to you as an individual, but on top of that, the internet was overseen by the National Science Foundation. We actually called it NSFNet at the time, and we had what we called the AUP, the Acceptable Use Policy, which you would expect laid out like all of the various terms of service like you'd have on fucking Facebook or the like, but this being the National Science Foundation, they presumed that everybody on the internet was going to act like an adult, and mostly what they did was say, no making money. No advertising and no making money, no talking about your company or your products or your services that you offer, no trying to advertise, no trying to get clients, none of that shit. Nope. You're not allowed to make money on the internet. That was the major thing they were concerned with. So Usenet was full of porn. There was so much fucking porn, it was ridiculous. And nobody bothered to age verify you. So, I'm sitting there, 11 and 12 years old, I'm sitting there on Usenet going, holy shit. But I don't know for a fact that Usenet is that old now that I think about it. I remember being on Usenet and being fairly young. I don't know if I was on it in 1980. It may have been like a couple years after that. But regardless, my ohiostate.edu email address continued to work for like forever as far as I know. I don't remember my login anymore, but You could probably still email it and get it to the account there. Of course, it doesn't forward to me anymore, so I would never know. But regardless, I was on an internet where everybody knew who everybody was, where everybody could find out who you were and where you lived and all of that sort of thing. And it was not a big deal. It was not something that we worried about. It was not something we were concerned about. And then somewhere along the line, people started to get very concerned about privacy. And it's interesting because I don't see the big deal about telling people your identity to get on the internet. What I do see as a big deal is having to tell every individual site you join about your identity. It should just be part of your ISP account. All of the individual people at your house should have individual accounts on the service provider. We don't really do it that way anymore. We just kind of assume that any device at your house is attached to your one account with the ISP. And that's kind of where things have broken down. But we could fix that fairly easily with a few little local bits and pieces. And really, the thing that bothers me about ID on the internet is that you have to give this information to somebody that you don't have an existing relationship with. I mean, my internet service provider, I pay them to provide me service. I trust them to actually basically do right by me. I don't really trust... I don't trust the people who run Discord to do right by me. I don't trust the people who run Facebook or Blue Sky to do right by me. I certainly don't trust random website that I go to order comic books. That I shouldn't have to give them my details. I think my details should be held by some specific person that I have a relationship and an account with. And I think that'd be reasonably easy. It should just be your VPN. We should make everybody use a VPN all the time. And I think your ISP should provide that. Fundamentally, I think that when you get on your ISP, you should have to log into your VPN, and you should use the VPN to go everywhere. And if you don't, then you're going everywhere bare, and every place that you go bare, your internet service provider is just tracking everything. Your ISP tracks all of it and goes, yeah, that was the whoever owns the account. There's this desire people have for anonymous communication on the internet. And I don't think we need that everywhere. I don't think we need anonymous communication everywhere on the internet. I don't think anybody needs to be anonymous on Facebook. I think if you want to be anonymous, you go someplace that's not Facebook. And I feel like there should be an expectation of privacy that differs depending on where you are. Like, you shouldn't have to tell Discord your real name. That can be an anonymous place that you're just, whoever you want to be. I don't think you should have to tell Blue Sky your real name or who you really are. But I do think there's a real benefit to removing anonymity from the internet because botnets rely on it. Botnets rely on the idea that 12,000 people could sign up for an account on any given social media site and just claim to be whoever they want to be. That site can't tell, really, whether that's 12,000 people or one guy with a botnet that's running 12,000 accounts, or a guy with agentic AI that's just going to go in there and start up all these accounts and do whatever horse shit he wants it to do. I think that's a problem. And I think we need to do something about it. But I'm not sure what the right answer is. I think we've gone very far down this road where people are like, don't share your information online. And I'm from a generation that had no choice but to share our information online. We used to have a telephone book that was delivered to everybody's house. And if somebody had your phone number, they could look up your name and address. Somebody had your name, they could look up your phone number. They could look up your address. They could come to your house. We did that all the time. We did that with our classmates. Hey, who's that one girl you think is cute in class? Carrie Adams? Let's look in the phone book. Oh, look, here's where she lives. Let's get on our bikes and go over there. We did shit like that all the time. We didn't think anything of it. But then it wasn't the world. We weren't communicating with the world. And the world is different now. And I'm not sure what the right answer is. But I do know one thing. There's a tendency when people are my age to go, it should be back the way things were when I first started doing this. But we don't live in that world anymore. We're not those people. We don't live in that world. We don't have the same society. We don't have the same culture. And the way we did things back then probably doesn't work anymore. There have been a lot of changes for the better over the last 45 years. And I think some part of them are because you can be anonymous on the internet, and because you can be commercial on the internet, because you can advertise what you do, you can talk about your products, you can talk about your services. I think that kind of freedom has been good, and I think what we've run into is something fairly strange. Back in the day, it was like there were only a few websites, and you just had them memorized. And when we started getting more websites and you couldn't memorize them all, you kept the bookmarks. You had a list of bookmarks in your browser. And after a while, we started to create directories. Individual people started going, hey, here's a list of resources that's really good to go to on the internet. And you would keep a list of those lists of resources. And then people started doing directories, like Yahoo started doing this directory. And they're like, if you're looking for a list of resources on this subject, here are some good lists of resources. And then we created the search engine, the automatic search engine that would go through and build that index dynamically. You could just go to Google and you could say, show me fat guys wearing spandex. And it would say, you want to see pictures or websites? Both. And then it would show you a bunch of pictures of fat guys wearing spandex and websites run by fat guys who wear spandex. It's just whatever you were into, you know? And that was a very different kind of internet when you could just find whatever it was you were looking for. And it was very decentralized, except it started out, you knew all of the sites that you went to. And then it was, you had your own personal list of sites you went to. And then it was, somebody you knew had a list of sites you went to. And then it became, well, that company has a list of sites you go to. And now it was, this site can find me the sites I want to go to. And then social media came out of that. And what happened was we had this decentralized internet that just gradually condensed and funneled together to where we used to have thousands of websites, and now we have 5 websites, and each one of them is filled with screenshots of the other 4. And we all have like our main site. We all have the main site that we go to. I spend almost all of my time on Blue Sky and Tumblr. Those are my 2 major sites. And if Blue Sky went down tomorrow, I wouldn't be that fussed about it. But I'd lose my fucking shit if Tumblr went down. Tumblr is clearly my main site. It used to be Facebook. But then, I stopped caring about Facebook. And then it was Twitter for a while. And then Elmo happened. And now it's Tumblr. I don't know what's going to happen if Tumblr goes to shit. I feel like Tumblr's going to go to shit. I feel like it's going to be next in line. But it's just like we collected everything into a small number of places because nobody wants to look for what they want. And once you get centralized, once everybody's going through one bottleneck, the problem is that bottleneck becomes a place where you can be forced to jump through hoops to get to what you want. And people do that all the time. They make you watch ads. They make you look at banners. They make you click through and say, I'm not a robot, and tell them whether or not you like cookies and all of that fucking bullshit. And the way you get out of this is by decentralizing again. And we're moving in a direction. More and more people are saying we need to move back to the decentralized internet. To where instead of going to one website and that's where you look at your activity feed, to where you go to the individual sites on the internet that you want to go to. And I'm all for that because that's where we started. But at the same time, I sit here and I go, we don't live in that world anymore, really. I feel like RSS was where we really should have gone with everything. And then nobody really cared for it. It wasn't very good support for it in the browsers, and there should have been. The browsers should have supported RSS much better than they did. But anyway, I don't know what the internet looks like in 10 years. But everything's got to change. It's got to change. We can't, social media in 2015 was fucking awesome, and I loved it. Social media in 2025 is dog shit. So, the internet in 2035 is going to look very, very different than it does now. And I don't know what it looks like, but it's not going to look like this. And I feel like anonymity is going away. I feel like you're going to have to tell them your real name. You're going to have to map it to your real identity. You're going to have to be age verified. And I don't know what that's going to mean to certain people, because the thing that always comes to mind is trans people, because we don't live in a world where transgender people are safe to be out. We live in a world where queer people are safe to be out. I'm very happy with that. I can be queer and out, and it's not a problem. I'm not transgender, but I know a lot of people who are, and some of them are out on the internet, but not at work, not at home, not to their friends and their family and their coworkers. They're out to the internet. And I don't know what happens to those people when you have to connect their internet life to their work life and their home life and their family life. And I worry about that, because that's a big deal. It would be very different if we lived in a world that was safe for them. But we don't. And there are a bunch of people that are pushing for it to be even less safe. We're making it way less safe for them. And that's really not fair. And I wish more people cared about that and wanted not to do it. Anyway, we've gone past midnight now. Hey, I started recording before midnight. Fuck you. But, yeah, I don't know what the internet looks like in 10 years. I don't know what the world looks like in 10 years. Oh, well. I don't want to think about that right now. I shall think about it tomorrow. Do the little YouTube dance, like, comment, subscribe, all that happy horse shit. Okay, bye.